March of 2010, the first Africamp Youth Conference was convened in Nairobi, Kenya at the Lukenya Getaway. Sponsored by the Open Society Institute Youth Initiative, the conference brought together over 100 youth activists from all over sub-Saharan Africa to showcase their work in the different countries and thus learn from each other.
Gulapi writes, ministers and presidents of tomorrow. Why not today? The future is in our hands. Our time is nigh. Why is our time not now?
The youth also had opportunities to interact with prominent personalities and advocates in democracy and good governance, human rights, youth and new media, as well as youth empowerment and leadership development.
Young people represent the greatest resource that any country, any nation can ever have. And having been in the youth movement for many years, from my university days and into the NGO world, I feel strongly that if a country wants to grow, if a country wants to develop, then that country must consciously invest in the young people.
The annual Africamp conferences will create a platform for positive transformation of African youth by training them on how to harness new media in getting their message heard.
As youths, we need to make sure that the governance of the internet must ensure sustainability, especially our future sustainability. So basically, you need to make sure that whatever is being thought about today remains sustainable for you in the future, remains sustainable for your children.
Social media is best understood as a group of new kind of online media, and online can be on different distribution platforms. That might be the mobile phone, it might be the internet, or other platforms to come in the future.
Over the course of the 5-day conference, the participants, rapporteurs, invited guests and the conference conveners held panel discussions on key issues affecting the lives of youth across the African continent.
Research in science has shown that there exists a very big link between abortion and infertility. Unless we don't want to see our future children, our prosperity, then we can do that. Secondly,
so when you kill a fetus, you have committed murder. There is a reason why in every country murder is illegal.
You are not offering them a way to take care of those children. You are not offering them solutions. You're not offering them anything material that tells them, once you bring this child into this world, we will help you take care of that child. And that is why people are opting to have abortions, because you don't see a solution.
In your own countries, you will be labeled so many things for trying to discuss or bring to the table discussion about those issues. You will be called sellouts, you will be called unpatriotic. I mean, we have gone through that in some of our countries. But those are excuse just to put you aside, don't involve you in the discussions. I'll say, don't lose hope, even for Swaziland, or for Namibia, or for Morocco.
Among the topics thrashed out were the African Youth Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, Human Rights, New Media, African Elections, Gender and Governance, as well as youth participation.
Skills, identify those strategies that you know will be able to reach to the people you are reaching out to. If you are in a rural constituency like I am, I'm not sure a communication strategy through the internet may work. So you must look for a communication strategy that works for you.
Politics of personality, which is the way that most African states run, politics of personality are a bigger problem than unlimited terms. We would argue that, firstly, politics of personality aren't going to be the biggest hurdle for African politics, because largely politics of personality merely mean that African people are more drawn to a charismatic leader than they are to someone who may be, for example, incredibly well educated.
We need to be able to come up with actionable ideas that we can take to our communities, that we have a very key role to play in terms of taking our continent to the next level. Because our leaders have failed us, but we cannot afford to fail this continent.
Africamp 2010 also focused on the African Youth Charter and how it can promote youth-powered change in democracy, governance and elections in the continent.
One, the need to inculcate a culture of service in the youth if they are to be economically empowered. Another thing that emanated is having entrepreneurship skills training to bridge the gap between theory and practice.
Advocacy. We need 24 advocacy plans for us. 24 advocacy plans for how we will transform our countries. We need to set standards, both for ourselves and for these organizations we work for, and also for our network. Standards. We cannot preach water and drink wine. We must walk the talk.
You will be called a coward, but you have to go on. I have written more than 30 articles to the national newspaper talking about the need for correct governance and democracy. Not one has seen the light of day. Did I give up there? Come on, I got Facebook and I have more than 1,600 recruitees in my group. I fix my issues there because if the radio of this country and your country is not going to listen to you, if the newspapers are not going to listen to you, if no one is going to come for your teleconferences, forget about them and use just what you have. Get to email. Join. I heard the Nigerian lady talk about youth groups. We must form them. Apparently, in the African scenario, the politicians know only too well how to hijack them. It's up to you to give it up to them.
In the speed geeking sessions, selected participants were given the forum to sell themselves in 5-minute sessions regarding their individual projects in their home countries. This gave them an opportunity to hear comments and suggestions from the small groups on how to maximize effectiveness in their continued work.
Get your leaders in there, then they get corrupted with power, and then they take over the role of the old regime, and then you need to remove them and put somebody else. It just becomes a vicious cycle. Yeah.
The conference was not just all business. The participants often had informal sessions to bond and share experiences about their journeys so far.
Africamp has been really cool so far. I hadn't expected it to be this eye-opening and inspiring. I think the coolest thing has been getting to meet people from different parts of Africa who have very different stories but similar ideas about how to change things and similar goals and visions for getting things going in Africa.
Well, it's just been a great opportunity to meet new people from across the continent, to understand more about new media, to understand more about the charters that have been presented. Yeah, it's been great.
Africamp really is to empower young people themselves to strengthen each other's work by creating a Pan-African network and movement, partnerships that we can hopefully maintain and leverage when it comes to mobilizing on issues of African importance.
It's been very interesting interacting with very different people from different backgrounds and cultures with different experiences. I've learned a lot. I wouldn't trade this experience for anything.
Today we just launched AfriChange, which is the social network just for members of Africamp and hopefully for their people and the people they influence to come. So it's an open space for young leaders and young Africans to change this continent.
Well, I found the Africamp very much interesting, considering the fact that young people from within Africa gathered together to share their experience and see the way forward for young people and Africa's development. Because I always say, if we invest in young people, then there is a progress for any nation so far.
There's nothing stopping you. You have the skills, and clearly you have the spirit. I look forward to coming back again and again here and seeing the progress that you make. And hopefully next year we'll have a bigger Africamp. But regardless of what we have, we're going to know that as long as you keep up the fight, Africa's in good hands.
A fitting conclusion to Africamp 2010 was a social messaging event held at the University of Nairobi Sports Grounds, where amid the star-studded entertainment, the conference participants took to the stage. Here, they were given an opportunity to share with their peers the Africamp message as discussed at the conference.
We are here to talk to you to listen to you, share with you that plight of the African youth that is supposed to be employed, that is supposed to have adequate and quality education. The youth that is supposed to enjoy the rights as they are written, but not just remain on paper. And that's why we come here to say that from Libya, from South Africa, from Nigeria, from all the parts of Africa, that we stand as youth, enjoy that peace, enjoy that democracy that has always eluded us as a generation.
It is important for us as young people to begin to realize that youth is not a state of limitation. Youth is a state of pending responsibility. It is important for us to know that as young people, we cannot continue to sit on the fence and allow people to deliberate for our future. And that's the reason why, even though all the hundreds of us that have come to participate at this conference are not better than you by any chance, the only reason why we are the ones on this side and you are the ones on that side is because you are angry, we are angry, but we are doing something about our own anger.
Many years ago, we were told that we are supposed to fight against disease, against poverty, and against ignorance. And while we come here today, we come to fight those same fights. 40 years after independence, many African youth are still not free. 40 years later, the African youth languishes on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. And this is unacceptable. 40 years later, we are still faced. Our hands are still tied with chains of segregation and our legs tightened by ropes of discrimination. And that is why we came here to say that it is unacceptable.
Leading human rights, good governance and accountability advocate Maina Kiai was the keynote speaker at the event.
Oftentimes in our countries, for all of us in Africa, we don't get young people, we don't get pro-democracy movement, we don't get people who are positive coming together. What we have is our leaders coming together, and they meet, by the way, very often. At the AU Summit, IGAD Summit, East African Community Summit, they meet very regularly. And you know what they do? They learn from each other. And every single African leader has learned negative things from each other. And we have to therefore change it by us, the non-politicians, meeting and exchanging positive ideas. That is our role. That's something we must do. And we must keep it up.
His take on youth participation in Africa and the difference that young people can make on democracy and elections was hard-hitting and an excellent take-home message for the participants of the first Africamp Youth Conference.
We have to start asking ourselves, as Kenyans, as Africans, what has happened to us that we have moved back so much? That the 1990s seemed to be in a positive spin for Africa. That young people were coming up, taking offices, taking leadership, doing things. When I started the Kenya Human Rights Commission here in the 90s, I was in my 20s. And I was the director of Kenya Human Rights Commission. Today is the largest human rights group in the country. Young people were involved everywhere, at every single level in the 90s. What's happened? What's happened to us? Where have we left everything to these older people?
The event drew to a close with a performance by Africamp participants presenting their self-written track.